Backstage update on previous WWE plans for several release superstars. Samurai Del Sol has heat in AEW. Teams announced finally for WWE Survivor Series. Hello, good morning. Welcome to What Culture Wrestling here with me, Andrew Ballard, on a Sunday, the solo Sunday news. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Nice comments. Nice comments are always better than bad comments. So, just saying. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. I hope you're having a great Sunday. Whatever you've got planned today, I hope it goes cool. If you've got nothing planned, even better. Sometimes there's nothing better than just sitting on the sofa doing nothing whatsoever with a Sunday. So whatever you're doing, have a good one. But wrestling news, that's what we're here for. It is What Culture Wrestling. After all, it is a Sunday. I'm a little bit hoarse, so apologies if this sounds all weirdly raspy. But yeah, Fightful Select has got an update on some of the recent releases from WWE. Of course, we saw, 18 wrestlers let go this past week, which is... But that's been covered in lots of other videos. If you've not seen it, I think it was Friday's news. Adam Wilborn went on a brilliant rant about this, and Andy Murray, which they do this far more justice than I ever could. But anyway, of those releases, some of those were, Karrion Kross, there was Scarlett Bordeaux, there was Mia Yim, and there was Keith Lee. They were just 4 of the 18. And then Fightful updates that the two, in terms of Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, the more recent things we've seen from them in TV in terms of Bearcat Keith Lee or Keith Bearcat Lee and Karrion Kross's full gladiator Quang gear, it's just the Sultan, whatever we saw from Karrion Kross. Supposedly that, funnily enough, was not the talent's ideas, those changes. This was a call that was made by WWE Creative to go with the Keith Bearcat Lee. I know at the time, it was reported that Keith Lee his idea was the Bearcat thing. And then since he's been released, he's taken to Twitter to kind of say, no, it wasn't. Also, Karrion Kross has taken to Twitter to trash the helmet that he had to wear as part of the gladiator shtick. This report from Fightful adds that there was a lot of people backstage who were kind of pushing to not change Karrion Kross because that really works in NXT. Whether you like Karrion Kross or not, I know he's a bit of a Marmite wrestler in terms of people seem to really like him or people just don't care. But regardless of your thoughts on him in that sense, there's no dispute that what he had in NXT, that act visually looked amazing. Just him coming to the ring, the music playing, the fog, Scarlett with him. It was a really cool act. So you move him to Raw and you strip back the entrance, you take away the smoke, you take away Scarlett, then you put him in this weird gimp suit. And it's wonder why that didn't work. But yeah, this Fightful update says that a lot of people backstage were kind of pushing WWE to not change anything with Karrion Kross, which obviously they didn't listen to, and they did. And also those same people are saying that any problems that came from, say, Keith Bearcat Lee or Karrion Kross in terms of those characters, it wasn't down to the performance. It was down to the creative that they were given. And I think we could all agree that, yeah, the Keith Bearcat Lee thing, I think, could have maybe worked, but we'll never know because it was given, 3 weeks on TV or whatever, and then the poor guy was fired. Karrion Kross, that was never going to work, and you just feel so sorry for that guy. Another part of this story as well, from Fightful, is that Scarlett was being looked at. We'd heard this before for a spot on Raw or SmackDown as a wrestler, but that was quickly sidelined. Is the word that's here? I don't know whether you don't know with WWE. It could have been just somebody. I don't know. She caught somebody on the wrong day, and they've just gone, "Nah, we're not using her." And then she just sits out, and people take to Twitter crying out for it to be put with Karrion Kross. It never ever happens. Also, with Mia Yim, there were tentative plans to do something with her, either on Raw or SmackDown. And several times those plans, when they came up, they'd be changed, then it'd be dropped. And she, after being traded, after Retribution ended, and she was quietly traded to SmackDown with Slapjack. Nothing happened. We heard that Mia Yim may debut soon on SmackDown, and she was going to debut on this show. There was matches where she was going to wrestle. I think it was Natalya was one of the matches, and it just never happened. And it's Jesus. But anyway, away from those WWE releases and over to Samurai Del Sol, who turned up on this week's AEW Dynamite with Aerostar to challenge FTR for the AAA World Tag Team Championships. And it was a fun match. I mean, it was FTR, to me, the greatest tag team on the planet. I will stand by that. And then you had Aerostar and you had Samurai Del Sol, the former Kalisto, doing some really cool stuff in there as well. It was a fun match. There was maybe Aerostar did a little bit too much at times, but hey, I enjoyed it. But yeah, Samurai Del Sol, the big story that came out of this afterwards was he took to, in case you missed it, he took to Twitter and basically paid tribute to John Huber, to Brody Lee. to Luke Harper, whatever you know him as, where he said that he did a prayer for John before the show to get him in the right mindset as a tribute to his sadly deceased friend. Now he got heat for this on Twitter from Chris Jericho, called him out, and Amanda Huber as well, because he spelled John wrong in the tweet. He spelled it with a H, and there is no H in there. Now, for those wondering what the situation is with this, there was the Brian and Vinny show. Brian Alvarez said that the bigger issue here was a lot of people were bothered backstage in AEW, including Amanda Huber, who was upset because it's a really delicate situation. But it's because that supposedly Amanda was angry because Samuray Del Sol, Kalisto, wasn't necessarily a big friend of John Huber's, and so it was just seen as maybe he was just dropping that name in just for the sake of dropping that name in. And she said that this story from the Observer says that Amanda had not heard from Kalisto, Samuray Del Sol for years, her or John, and that he didn't check up on John when he was extremely ill before his sad passing. And people have compared this to Miro, because Miro put some tweets out, I think it was just after John had passed, where he said he was just obviously paying tribute to his friend, but he spelled Brody wrong. He spelled it with a Y instead of an IE, and people are saying, well, what's the difference here? But the other story of this is Miro was very close with him and checked up on Amanda every day, well, most days, and the kids. So it's a like I said, it's a very delicate situation, because we won't know the ins and outs of this. I mean, the fact that it's upset Amanda Huber, that's the big takeaway here on this. Obviously, sadly widowed, and still very much dealing with the passing of her husband. So it's whatever it is, it's upset her, and that's not cool. Whether the details on how close Samuray Del Sol, Kalisto, and Brody were, that's not for us to know, I guess. But that's the story that's coming out that just adds a bit more context to why Samuray Del Sol was maybe getting some beef on Twitter. I don't know if beef's the right word. But moving over to big beefy people battling each other. The Survivor Series, there is the Survivor Series. It's crazy. It's like, where's the build been for Survivor Series? There's been pretty much nothing, it feels like. But yesterday, WWE announced on, what was it? Was it Twitter? Was it Instagram? Either way, so one of their social media channels, it might even have been on the bump, but they announced the Survivor Series team, because there are going to be team versus team matches, Raw versus SmackDown on Survivor Series, of course. And it feels like Survivor Series feels like such an afterthought. It was only in reading this story that I realized that Survivor Series is 2 weeks away, the 21st November, from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And it's like, it just feels like there's been so much, I don't know, so minimal build or anything to do with Survivor Series, really. But we are going to run through the teams rather than just waffling. I do have a habit to waffle. I apologize for that wholeheartedly. But yeah, Team Raw, the men's team, is going to be Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Rey and Dominic Mysterio. And they're going to be taking on Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, Xavier Woods, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin, King Corbin, whatever you want to call him, Happy Corbin. And then there's the Raw women's team is Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Zelina Vega, going against SmackDown, Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi Blackheart, who I think is just known as Shotzi these days. I think they dropped the Blackheart, Natalya, and Aaliyah. So they're the teams for SmackDown. I mean, they've not announced these matches yet, but you'd imagine we're going to get Big E and Roman Reigns, maybe Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, and RK Bro and the Usos, I guess it would be in the tag teams. So yeah, it's shaping up to be an all right card. It's an okay card, but it just feels like this event, it just feels like it's there for the sake of being there. The WWE aren't that bothered about promoting it. It's just an event that's going to happen. I think Big E and Roman Reigns, we've got 2 weeks to build these matches now, but I think if Big E and Roman Reigns does happen, which I'm pretty sure it will do, that could be really special if it was handled in the right way, if it was built in the right way. As it stands, we're 2 weeks out from Survivor Series, and this just feels like any other generic B/C level pay-per-view. So hopefully WWE does something to surprise us. For me, if I'm looking at that, the only thing that jumps out to me is I want the women's team match. I want it just to be Shayna Baszler dominating everybody and standing tall at the end. That's all I ask from Survivor Series. I'm an easy man to please. Give me Shayna Baszler being a beast. A quick couple of questions here to wrap up on the Soul Sunday news. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And the first one comes in from Mark. Mark Solid, how you doing, Mark? Morning, Andrew. Morning, Mark. Thoughts on trying another Nexus with the massive call-ups with NXT 2.0? And if so, who would you put in the group? As always, Mark, thanks for the dog picture. I always appreciate dog pictures. The dog's looking very nice and very happy. I think this is a really interesting one. To me, I think there's certain people in NXT right now, not necessarily in the 2.0 mode, but there's certain people in NXT right now where you look at the main roster and you think if they go to the main roster, to Raw or to SmackDown, they're just going to, despite their talent, it's not going to work. Whether it's a case of Vince is going to look at him and go, God, man, what, he's like 5'7", doing nothing with him. I think there's lots of people who, if they went on their own to Raw SmackDown, it wouldn't go well. But I think that if you put them as a collective and you had them debut together, I think it could work really well. So for me, if I'm pulling out, say, 7 people was it the original Nexus, I think. So I'd go with Johnny Gargano, I'd go with Tommaso Ciampa, I'd go with Kyle O'Reilly, I'd go with Pete Dunne. I'd go with Raquel Gonzalez, maybe, if you want a female in the group as well, and she is a badass ass kicker. Maybe you include Rich Holland with that. I know he's already been called up to SmackDown, but I think maybe you include Rich Holland as that, as like the enforcer, the beef, and then that's 6 people. Braun Breaker, Rex Steiner. I'd go with him maybe because I don't know. I think, to be fair, I think he'll stay in NXT for a little while and eventually become the face of NXT for a bit before then being called up to Raw or SmackDown. But I don't know, just me, I'd like to think if you're going to do another Nexus, you have maybe like a younger guy, and that would be the younger guy. And the dude's, he seems so talented already, just naturally. He's very rough around the edges, but you just know there's something there, natural talent, natural charisma, and the fact how strong he is. That's something you can't teach, is that legit strength. So yeah, that's my group. I go Ciampa, I go Gargano, I go Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, Raquel Gonzalez, Rich Holland, and Braun Breaker. Hopefully that'd be kind of cool. I feel like it's a bit like Undisputed Era is my logic with this, where you always thought if they broke Undisputed Era up, you had the feeling that if any of those guys got called up individually to Raw SmackDown, they wouldn't fare too well. But if they went up together as that group and just caused hell on Raw or SmackDown, or both, then it could work really well and they could be established as his force. But as it was, Undisputed Era broke up. Adam Cole was no longer with the company. Bobby Fish no longer with the company. Kyle O'Reilly's doing whatever he's doing with Von Wagner. And then you've got Roddy in Diamond Mine. So yeah. But yeah, next question we've got here. Thanks for that one, Mark. Dustin Sensenig. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Dustin, apologies if I have not, and I've totally butchered it. I know you guys at times watch all 3 WWE brands because you have to. But what, if anything, would make you stop watching any of those? Man, that's a great question. This is something I've pondered so many times over the years, because it's like the product itself is just Raw in particular. SmackDown is most weeks pretty decent, to be fair. NXT 2.0, Jesus, that's a tough watch these days, which is sad compared to like how good NXT was at one point in time, and that was like the go-to wrestling show for me. As bad as this sounds, and this is like almost like me enabling WWE to churn out like crap every week, it's like I don't think I'd ever stop watching. It's sad. It's really sad. I'm gonna have like a come to Jesus meeting here. It's almost like a sense of Stockholm syndrome, I think, where you don't want it. It's like, I mean, I've been watching WWE for like not quite 30 years, but not far off. Like I've been watching since like 1990-ish, roundabout then. So it's like, this is like a part of my viewing habits every week was when I could get access to it as a kid, it'd be Raw, which wasn't every week because I didn't have Sky then at that point in time. And then you get it on like German TV. And anyway, long story short, it's like, it's part of my weekly habits. It's part of our weekly habits, as well as obviously we cover this for our jobs, for a living, is that we have to watch Raw, SmackDown, and NXT and AEW. And I mean, I watch Impact all the time. I watch ROH as much as I can, but that's awful news about ROH. I watch the NWA every week. So it's like, but in terms of WWE, my viewing habits is watching that. It's like, it is like Stockholm syndrome, where you feel like you can't not watch it because there's this slither of hope. You can watch Raw last week and it's like, God, that was horrendous. I really don't want to watch this again. But there's always that, like, maybe it's me being an optimist, but there's like always a slither of hope that maybe this week is the week that they turn it around. Maybe this week is the good Raw. Maybe this week is the amazing SmackDown. Maybe this is the week where NXT 2.0 clicks for me. And so there's always that slither of hope. So yeah, as sad as it sounds, I don't know what could stop me watching anyway. I mean, there's outside factors away from the product. There's some of the, obviously the business dealings with Saudi Arabia that leaves a bad taste in the mouth. with those shows, but that's been covered to death, so I won't go into that too much. Then there's you see the obviously stuff like the releases that they keep making. I think it's like 71 this year. I think it was 71. Apologies if that's not correct, but obviously another 18 last week. That it's like, Jesus, man, this company. But they know that they've got us. They know that they've got a core group of people that tune in regardless. Whether that's for work or whether for pleasure, which it's normally not pleasure. So yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. I honestly, I'm going around in circles here, Dustin, and I'm starting to ramble, which I know is going to make people in the comments probably very angry. So yeah, I'm just going to say like nothing, which is really sad. I'm gonna spend the rest of my Sunday evaluating or reevaluating my life, my viewing habits. But it is this sense of Stockholm syndrome, I think, that you just keep tuning in. Also, that it is that slither of hope. There's always hope that this is going to be good, that things are going to change. Things don't, and we all like idiots. So anyway, thanks for those questions. Sorry if I've gone on there. I really have gone on. But yeah, this has been the Solo Sunday News. Myself, Andrew Pollard. Be sure to follow us at What Culture WWE. Follow me if you want at Cultured Left Peg. I can't promise it's going to be interesting, but you can come give me a follow if you want. And yeah, just be sure to have a good rest of your Sunday, whatever you do. If you've got big plans, you got no plans, I hope those plans go well and that you have the best Sunday possible. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will catch you next weekend.